you guys both think, right, we're all on the same page that Sam Bradford rides in on the white horse and saves the day, right?
Yeah, 7-8 touchdowns. Yeah, like it's nothing.
Bradford's back. Gronk's out. Bradford's back. You tell me who's going to win.
Take it to the bank. Take it to the bank. Take it to the bank. Welcome on in, Eagles fans, to episode 19 of our Eagles podcast here on NJ.com, the No-Huddle Show. Every week we're with you, and that sound you heard there as we opened up this podcast was us from last week talking about the upcoming Eagles-Patriots game, which obviously was one of the upsets, maybe the upset of the season for the Eagles. We laughed it off last week, and what do you know, 35-28, the Eagles go to Foxborough. They do what almost no one thought they actually could. They get a win, and they've changed the conversation once again. I'm Joe Giglio. With me, as always, Elliot Shore-Parks. Elliot, how are you, bud?
Can't believe what I saw this past weekend.
I can't either. And also with us, as always, Mark Eckel. Mark, how are you?
I'm good, Joe.
No, I don't think any of us can believe what we saw. And in a way, it almost completely changed everything. I mean, think about where we were 2 weeks ago, Elliot, after that game on Thanksgiving, when they had given up 90 points in a span of 4 days to where we are now, recording this on a Tuesday morning, the Eagles back in it. It's just an amazing turnaround, and it took that kind of win to do it.
Yeah, and I think about what we were talking about 2 weeks ago. We're talking about, is Chip going to be fired? Is Chip going to leave? Is the locker room quitting on him? And I remember us three talking, and I don't think any of us were in the camp of firing Chip. And I think after that win, I think it just shows why it was silly to even ever think about, letting Chip go. But I do think what surprised me is I didn't get the sense when we recorded that podcast. It was after the Buccaneers game, before the Lions game. But even after the Lions game in the locker room, I didn't get the sense from the players that they were ready to like save their season. It just didn't feel like that. I'm not saying they'd quit on Chip or anything. It just didn't feel like they were going to save their season. But I will say, in the days leading up to the Patriots game, talking to some of the players, I really think that break, that like Friday, Saturday, Sunday they had off after the Lions game, really kind of, it just seemed like it was good for this team. They seemed refreshed when I talked to them before the Patriots game. And all that being said, though, I didn't think there was any way they were actually going to win that game. And I remember sitting in the press box at Gillette with Mark and a few of the writers before the game, and we're all kind of saying, maybe they can keep it close, blah, blah. But ultimately, no one actually thought they would win. And then not only did they win,
shock the world.
Yeah.
I kept saying shock the world, and you guys weren't listening.
But not only did
keep it close to shock the world, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, shocking the world would have been by losing less than 10. I mean, really. But like, not only did they win, they were smoking them for a part of the game. It was at 31-14 or something like that. So, I mean, in the NFL, things change quickly, and I think you don't want to, like Chip will say, you don't want to overreact. And after that Cowboys win a few weeks ago, it seemed they were going to turn their season around, and then they had the 3 worst losses of Chip's career probably. So who knows what's going to happen next? But I think it's certainly fair to view this team a lot differently after that win.
I think we have to, because they woke up. They obviously played hard for Chip, and they went up there. And Mark, it reminded me the way they won that game, the different plays, the different mechanisms to having that upset there with the defense making plays, the special teams. It reminded me of a game from 2014, the beginning of last season, when their offense wasn't great, but they scored on special teams. They scored on defense, and you look up at the scoreboard, and they have a lot of points up there, even though they didn't exactly move the ball up and down the field. It reminded me of a game from last year.
A little bit, yeah, you're right. Where special teams last year was the best in the league, by far the Eagles' best unit, and this year it hasn't been bad. I mean, the special teams, other than the blocked punt they suffered themselves in the Miami game, they've been good. I mean, they haven't, let's not get this, but they weren't like they were last year. So everybody was looking at them like a little differently, and they came up. They scored 14 points against the Patriots. That's really impressive. I'm going to get back to Elliot's. You guys saying that you couldn't believe what you watched. I was surprised too. Don't get me wrong, but I think I was more using that phrase, couldn't believe what I was watching, more so in the Lions game and the Tampa Bay game. I couldn't believe that the Eagles. Listen, I still don't think they're a Super Bowl team. Never have. nothing's going to convince me that this team's going to a Super Bowl. I thought they were a playoff team at the beginning of the year. I didn't give up hope, even during the bye. I wrote a thing saying why they're going to win a division. I couldn't believe that they could play that poorly. So I thought they, put it this way, to use one of Elliott's things, better chance of them beating the Patriots or getting blown out by Tampa Bay or Detroit. I would have said better chance they could upset the Patriots than, let's keep in mind, New England's very good. Yes, they're a very good team, but they have flaws, and the Eagles exposed a few of those. I think New England, all of a sudden, people are starting to wonder. I don't think they're going to Super Bowl. I've been saying that for a while. I think all the injuries, everything is going to catch up to them. If they have to go on, if they don't get home field throughout, and right now they're the 3rd seed, I don't think they're going to Super Bowl. I don't think this team's as great as everybody is making it out. But yes, they have Tom Brady, but the Eagles beat him up too, by the way. They beat him up.
Yeah, I agree. The thing I'll say about, you touched on it, and Joe did as well with the special teams, is the only concern going forward if you're the Eagles was, so last year they won with the special teams, but really the special teams haven't won them many games so far this season up until this past Sunday, and the Eagles were 4-7. Yeah, maybe the Jets game. But I guess my point is what you saw was, and you wrote this. We'll talk about Sam Bradford. I thought Bradford played well, even though he only had 140 yards. He made a few really big plays when they needed him to. But the question is, going forward, and now realistically, we have to talk about this team in playoff contention because they're tied for first in the division. So, the way the Eagles won on Sunday, is that a sustainable way to win these next 4 games?
No.
Yeah, and so that's
no.
So I guess then ultimately the offense is going to have to play better than it did against the Patriots. I guess is where I was going with that. If they're going to win, and I think they.
But honestly, I don't think the offense played poorly. They weren't on. They only scored 14 points, but they didn't. When the defense scores for you, or the special team scores for you, that takes the ball out of the offense's hands. So they didn't have it. The Eagles didn't have a lot of possessions in that game.
Well, and the thing is, we all know I'm the biggest Bradford hater out there. So, for me to say this, but one of the reasons they won that game, they don't win that game with Sanchez because Sanchez turns the ball over. Bradford didn't play amazing. He did not. He made a few really good plays, and that's what you want from your quarterback. When you need a big play, he made them. His 2 touchdown passes were really good. The 3rd and 11 pass was really good. He had a few other big throws. But he didn't turn the ball over. And that's why early on when the Patriots went up, I think they went up 14-0. That would be a prime place there where if a team's going to fall apart, the quarterback throws a pick, the Patriots go up 21, and it really starts to snowball. Sanchez, for as much as I think people underrate him, he does not do well when games get away from him. The games start to snowball. Bradford, he didn't turn the ball over, and he kept the Eagles in it, at least by not making it worse. And then when given the chance, he made the plays.
This is the Sam Bradford that Chip Kelly thought he was getting when he made the trade with the Rams. Let's be honest.
Hopefully he thought he was going to be better than that.
Oh, no. Why? What would make you think he'd be better than that?
Well, this is as good as you're hoping. If you're hoping, though.
Chip's not a dreamer. Chip's a realist, and he's also and he knows quarterbacks. When he traded Nick Foles in a 2nd-round pick for Sam Bradford, he didn't think he was getting Aaron Rodgers. He didn't call Green Bay and offer Nick Foles in a second for Aaron Rodgers. He was getting Sam Bradford. That's what he was getting. But he wanted a guy that made good decisions and didn't, protected the ball and made some plays. Sam Bradford's not going to wake up today and become one of the best quarterbacks in football. He's just not. He is what he is. But early in the season, he was playing like one of the worst quarterbacks in football. He's not that bad. He's not as
turnovers.
Bad early. I think it was a combination of rust from not playing for whatever it was, a year and a half, from learning a new system, from having a lot of guys around him that weren't helping him with drop balls and whatever, bad line play. So it was part of his, I think there was a lot going wrong. Now the last, starting with the Dallas game, the Miami game, and then let's be honest, they win. If he doesn't get hurt, they win the Miami game. That's I don't think anybody could argue that because he doesn't. That ends up pick like Sanchez does.
I wouldn't say it's a lock, but I'll agree.
Oh, they won. Yeah, it's a lock. They would have won that game. They don't lose that game if he doesn't get hurt. And who knows what they would have done? I don't know. I mean, he couldn't stop the defense from giving up 45 points. But I just wonder when he got hurt and Sanchez went in and threw that interception, if the team just didn't get deflated. If those two games were like, oh, we're not going to win. We got Sanchez out there. He's going to throw picks. Not that this team is, they should be a little tougher than that. But again, and I'm not saying Bradford is any way. Like I said, he's not. He is what he is. But he did what Chip thought he would do. He made very good decisions Sunday. Very good.
And then the thing to me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and he made the big plays. All those third down conversions. Both touchdowns were third down. The pass to Cooper was third down. The earlier pass to Jordan Matthews for I guess it's the biggest play, the biggest gain of the day, the 20-yard pass was on third down. They're big. They're dry. If he doesn't make any of those plays, they're all drive stoppers. Yep. Either punting or kicking field goals if they kick a field goal instead of scoring a touchdown on one of them, it's a whole different game.
And, we kind of started the podcast by saying, how does this change outlook on the season? And we've talked about this a little bit the past few days, but, so how does this change the outlook on Bradford? I mean, I wrote before the game on Sunday, look, no matter what Bradford does over these next 5 games, you can't re-sign him because the sample size would be too small with the 5 games against the larger sample size of his career and really his time with the Eagles where he hasn't been good. And I don't think he's a quarterback that can lead this team to a Super Bowl. And I still don't think that. I still probably wouldn't re-sign him. But even I'll admit, I mean, you go into New England and you win that game, and I know the Patriots aren't this isn't the 16-0 Patriots from a few seasons ago. They were pretty – I mean, they were 10-1.
In this league, though.
Yeah, they're one of the best teams in this. I mean, I think
they're the best, but
but I think you can make the argument going to Gillette to play Tom Brady is probably the hardest game in the NFL.
Oh, I think so. I mean, he was 51-4 his last 55 games there. I mean, it's tough to go in there and win. It really is, no matter what they have, no matter who. And it opens the conversation back up, Elliot, certainly with Bradford. And now the next 4 weeks or how many they stay in it, but you would think all 4 weeks, considering the division the way it is, it's hard to fall out of it. They're going to become, double-edged sword games. Not only are they big for the Eagles, but they're big for Bradford too, because now I remember, Elliot, you said earlier in the year, I mean, how many big games has this guy ever played in the NFL? He had that one game in his rookie year, the last game of the season, ironically, wasn't that a 7-9 kind of Rams team too? Yeah, that was trying to win a division, and he lost it, but he hasn't played in any big games for 3-4 years now, and now he's going to have a whole month of them, you would think, coming up right now.
But that's the question, do you let what happens over these next 4 games, and including the Patriots game, so 5, do you let that dictate what you do? Because I think that's a dangerous thing to do.
It's more than 5. Why are you throwing out the Dallas and Miami game?
Well, they lost the Miami game. All right, fine. All right. Okay.
He left the field with the lead.
Yeah.
He heard that before. Look what happened to that guy.
Yeah. All right, fine. Even including those games. But I guess my point is, all right, well, here's what I'd say that. Because before the Patriots game, if I would have asked you, should they re-sign Sam Bradford, I think all of us would have said no. Would you agree with that?
I still might say no.
That's my point. That's my point. Do you let we all would have said no before the Patriots game. Do you let these next 5 games, or including the Patriots, do you let that?
Sure.
You would. That's my question. Is that
if he's lights out? If he plays lights out the last month, and they go 4-0, and he puts up a quarterback rating of anywhere from 95 to 105 every game. He throws 9 touchdowns and 1 interception, and they go, well, you have to think about re-signing him. He looks pretty damn good.
Would you?
Would I?
Yeah. They're going to think about it either way. They're going to think about it either way.
I think I say yes at that. If he does what I just said. Now,
it almost would be hard not to then, right? It almost would be hard. It almost would be hard not to. Like if he plays that well, and they do win this division, because if they won their last 4, obviously they would win the division. And they go to the postseason.
Going away.
Would he switch quarterbacks again, going into to his 4th year after coming off a postseason berth? I feel like he'd be back if that happened.
But we're not asking the real question here.
What's that?
Do you think he's going to do that?
I didn't think they'd beat the Patriots, so I have no idea.
What do we know?
They lose to Tampa Bay and Detroit either.
I don't know. You're the Bradford optimist all of a sudden. You got
no, I'm not. I'm a Bradford realist. I'm asking, do you think he's going to do? Ask me. I don't think he's going to put up a quarterback rating of between 95 and 105 and throw 9 touchdowns and 100. I know I don't. But if he
honestly, I think he might. And I can't believe I'm saying it, but like he's not turning the ball over. I think they're all winnable games. Even the Cardinals game
games
is
too.
the one where I think that could be rough for him. Actually, the Bills' defense is still pretty good. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like he is playing better, and this would, like I said, this would be classic Bradford. Like right before he's about to be a free agent, but like this is like he's about to earn himself another huge contract, I think. And the question is, are the Eagles going to be the team to give it to him? And I don't know if they should be that team. Is ultimately my point.
Well, there's the other side of that coin too. Is let's say let's play it out that he does play very well, and they go 4-0 or even 3-1. The Eagles want him back. Does he want to come back?
I mean, I think he goes wherever the most money is.
Right. So
I'd agree with that. He'll go where there's someone pays him.
As well as Philadelphia's money, and there's no state tax in Texas.
Hey, you should go to the Cowboys.
There you go. Cowboys, Houston, and a lot of teams will be looking for quarterbacks.
They always are, yeah. And he'll be if he's healthy and he plays well down the stretch, he'll be a sought after guy. And if the Eagles play well, it'll just enhance his profile. So I mean, Bradford, Elliot, you mentioned the throws he made down the stretch, hitting Cooper for that first down, and the clock ran a little bit more. That was a gigantic play.
Huge.
It was a huge play for each of you, outside of Bradford and the plays he made as the quarterback, which was important. Who gets the most credit for what they did on Sunday? Is it big picture like Chip or Billy Davis? Is it a certain player that stood out for you? I mean, for me, I thought Malcolm Jenkins, after the stir he caused last week with his comments that were, from the heart, he meant what he said, but I thought he played maybe his best game as an Eagle. He was everywhere, not just the 99-yard interception return. I just thought he had a great game even without that. That was obviously the exclamation point. Elliot, who stood out to you? Who gets the most credit for what they did on Sunday?
If I'm giving the game ball to somebody, I think I'm giving it to Billy Davis, and then in that way representing the whole defense. Just because, I mean, man, like you give up 45 straight points. Well, I guess 38 in one and 45 in another. Like that's ugly. And I mean, then you go to New England, you're facing Tom Brady. I know they're banged up, but that's still like I thought they were going to get smoked. And the defense played very well for 50 minutes of that game. I mean, at the end, it got a
lot of those drop passes by the Patriots wide receivers.
Hey, you know what though? I mean, I think at this point, if you told me the Eagles were only going to give up 14 points to the Patriots or something like that through 3 quarters. No, all right, but I'm saying they only give up 14 points through 3 quarters, and I know they almost blew it at the end.
Yeah.
But they didn't. So ultimately they got to stop when they needed it for what that's worth. And they in that same situation in week 4, they blew it against Kirk Cousins. So let's give them credit for stopping Tom Brady on the road. I just think the defense Chip was under a lot of scrutiny, but so was the defense and Billy Davis. And to be probably not the main reason, but one of the top 2 reasons they won that game is huge. I mean, I think that's why I'd give my game ball to.
I'm giving it to Darren Sproles.
I knew you were going to say that. As soon as I finished my answer, I thought of him.
I mean, the guy took over on a moment's notice as your top running back, and kind of didn't have a monster game, but had a very efficient. Ran hard, made some big plays, and then had the punt return. Without that punt return, we're going overtime. And who do you think is going to win in overtime?
Sam Bradford's going to win in overtime. That's who's going to win in overtime.
Oh, you better call heads. Because if Brady gets it, he might go down the field on you. So, no, I think Darren Sproles for everything he did in that. Actually, combining it with Joe's pick, I might give a game ball to Sean Payton for letting me get Malcolm Jenkins and Darren Sproles.
There you go.
Yeah, they can. That team could use those guys right now. But they were great. Sproles was great. 215 all-purpose yards. The punt return. Before we move on and talk about maybe some of the issues now, the big game coming up, the guy that's coming back in that big game, and this team is where they stand. What point in that game for each of you did you start thinking they might be able to do this? I mean, I know the 35 points kind of snowballed there, and then they took a big lead. But they were down 14-0 early in the middle of the second quarter. Elliot, for you, what was the moment in that game where you said, the Eagles might beat the Patriots?
I thought when they took a 21-14 lead, to me, I thought they could do it. Just because to come back from 14, I mean, when it was 14-0, me and Echo looked at each other in the press box and was like, well, this is over. Like, there's no way the Patriots are blowing a 14-point lead. I think we even both said if it got to 10-0, the Eagles probably weren't going to come back. So
you said that.
I said that. Yeah.
Then we started talking about Pulitzer prizes and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But so I mean, when they took the lead, to me, I just kind of felt like this was their day to come back from that, to fight back, to get the lead. I mean, and then you do it on a blocked punt, and I think that was the punt return the one that put them up 21. Or that might have been a touchdown, but regardless, you take the lead. I just thought at that point this seemed like their day.
Mark, how about for you? Was it the punt return? Was it the interception return?
No, it was two things prior. It wasn't either one of those plays. It was when they blocked the punt and tied it at halftime. I think I said, we got a game now.
Yeah.
But I thought the biggest thing, I believe New England got the ball to start the second half, correct?
They did, which I thought Mark made their 2-minute drill, if you want to call it that, before the half, before the block punt, so strange because it felt like they were just good. They were going to run the ball, run the clock out, get the ball coming out of the half, and then they passed on third down and set up the block punt.
That was, Bill Belichick had a bad day.
He did.
A bad day, whether it was him or whoever we can get into that a little bit later, but when they blocked the punt, I said, okay, we got a game now. And then, but I thought even more important was if New England would have got the opening kickoff, or the second half kickoff, and gone down the field and scored, okay, it's, but when they stopped them on that drive, and then they got the ball back, and that's what I said. And I'll be honest, I thought, if you look at the score I picked, and I told Elliot this during the week, and while we were eating breakfast or lunch, whatever it was, before the game, I kept saying the Eagles are going to play well today. They have too much pride. There's too much, they played so poorly the last week. So I said they're going to play well enough to beat a lot of teams today. I don't know if they're going to play well enough to beat the Patriots. But then I watched seeing the Patriots in person, and I wasn't that impressed. I mean, maybe it was just a bad day for them all around. But the Eagles played well. The Eagles played that game every game. If they play that game from here on out, they're going to go 4-0. I just don't know if they can. But I thought they would play well. I thought it would be close. But New England, because they're New England and because they're home and because they have Tom Brady, would find a way to win. They put themselves in too big a hole to come back and win. But, when you score on 3 returns in a game, it's hard to lose.
You should win the game when you do that.
Yeah.
You really should. And they did it, and now they move forward here. After all those great moments on Sunday, they beat the Patriots 35-28. 5-7, back in this thing. But of course, every game, no matter how well you play, there's always.
They're never really out of it. Even if they lost, they'd only be a game out.
I guess it's true. I mean, I guess that's just natural to say. You're back in it, but you're right. They were never out of it in this weird division. So as we move forward from the Patriot game and look forward to the last month, there's always something that's negative, no matter what you do in a game, even if you win. And this time, it felt like DeMarco Murray, and what maybe was a big change here is they basically went away from him for long stretches of the game. You guys wrote about it, basically benched, 8 carries, less than 25 yards, and then we're doing this podcast on a Tuesday morning. Some news came out that he apparently went to Jeff Lurie. There was a report to talk about his role and how he fits in this offense. I mean, it's obviously not going well here, Elliot. Year 1 for DeMarco Murray with the Eagles. And, they were more comfortable in the end of that game, giving the ball to Sproles most of the time. And even Kenyon Barner was getting carries.
And he fumbled the ball. So for what it's worth. But look, I mean, I'd cut DeMarco. I just think it's a failed experiment. You don't continue to invest in I mean, I know it's a big cap hit next offseason. They're going to pay him $8 million if he stays. To cut him, they pay him $13 million, a total. So it's really only a $5 million difference. I just don't think he's happy. I don't think he's a fit. He isn't playing well. I think you're better off going young at the position. I mean, we saw what the speed of Sproles and Barner. It just made the offense look better. I mean, they were productive. I mean, DeMarco Murray had 5 carries for 1 yard in the first half of that game.
Ron Hayes, 5 for 1.
Yeah. And Sproles and Barner had 10 carries for I think it was like 69 yards. So they were just way more productive. I mean, you can't continue to play DeMarco. And then there's the off the field stuff. And I'm not saying he's a bad influence in the locker room. That's kind of like a gray area to go into. But he just doesn't seem like super thrilled to be here. Maybe that's just his personality. And, that's just my reading into it. He just doesn't seem like he's happy. And I mean, clearly, why would he be? And he's not playing well.
I'll tell you why he should be. He has 40 million reasons to be happy.
Yeah, but I would release them. I just think they're better off going in a new direction at running back. I don't really think you want them in the locker room. I know you take the cap hit, but you know what? It was a bad. You got to take the hit. It is what it is. You got to take the hit. but I just don't think you can bring him back.
Is there any way? I know this. I doubt it. I'm going to answer my own question, but is there some team? Is there one team desperate enough, dumb enough, feeling that he could be their guy that you could maybe trade him?
Well, I mean, a team did give up a second-round pick for Sam Bradford, so you never know what's going to happen out there. But
anything could happen. I mean, I guess someone would maybe if they are desperate.
I mean, the contract. You're not trading him. You're trading his contract. I think if he was, if his contract wasn't what it was, I think you could definitely get somebody to give you, a mid-round pick for a guy that led the league in rushing just a year ago. I don't know if anybody's going to take on that contract. That's what's got on. But you never know. It only takes one team to say, hey.
And the cap hit, I'm pretty sure the cap hit's only $8 million. The cap would only be $8 million for the team that traded for him. It wouldn't be 13.
Right. If you assume the contract, Elliot, on the point you made with the way he's run and the way the other guys look better on the TV broadcast, it was Tom Brenneman and Charles Davis for Fox, and Charles Davis went on and on about to the other two backs. He was talking about how Sproles hits the hole so well and so hard, and how about Barner finishes runs. Obviously, the fumble notwithstanding late in that game, but. And those two things Murray's not doing. I mean, he got criticized so much for sliding against the Dolphins, and obviously he doesn't hit the hole well. I mean, we've talked all year about the fit in this offense, or is he just not that good of a player right now for whatever reason, whether he was injured earlier, all the carries last year? Is this fit, or is he just not that good right now?
I just don't think he's that good right now. I mean, just when you watch him run, I mean, how many plays this year have has he made where you're like, wow, that looks like a talented running back? I mean, maybe 2, 3. I mean, so I just don't think there's even McCoy last year when the offensive line struggled, he didn't have a good year. There were still moments where, he'd be behind the line of scrimmage, but he'd make a guy miss, or, he'd get an open field, and you could just see the raw ability. With DeMarco, I don't see that. I mean, I guess you could see why he was successful in Dallas, because he is a big guy and he does run hard. But this year, I mean, he just it doesn't seem like a fit, and he just look. I mean, history. It shows that when a guy has as many touches as DeMarco did last year, the following season, they always take a massive step back. And that's what's happening again. Now, I don't know what history shows about players bouncing back from that down season, but he doesn't seem like a guy that, next year is going to rush for 1,500 yards. And I don't think they should bring him back. I mean, I know it's the cap hit, but I just think, it's almost a little bit like the Miles Austin thing. I mean, who they released. You just got to admit when you made a mistake. And I think DeMarco's clearly been a mistake.
It's different than Miles Austin, though. Miles Austin was on the final year. I mean, you didn't bring him in to be a star. You brought him in to be a backup receiver. I mean,
yeah, but I think the concept's the same of just admitting when you made a mistake. And DeMarco is clearly a mistake.
Well, is it? I mean, it is this year, but like you said, I like to look up the history of the guy. All right, we all know that, and the Eagles gambled on this, that when a guy has the carries that he had last year, the next year you take a step back. I like to know, does the guy bounce back? Because you say get rid of him. Okay, great. So they cut him, and he goes back to Dallas, and he gains 1,500 yards for the Cowboys next year, and then they win a division again. And now you made 2 mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the chances of, I mean, who knows? Who knows? But just because he's successful somewhere else, I mean, I think it's. Barring a complete change, it doesn't look like he's going to be successful here. Ideally, you would trade him to Cleveland or something like that.
Right. That's my point.
But I just think the chances of him coming back to hurt you are slim.
You know what I thought the biggest indictment of Murray in that game was? Not only that he was only on the field for 14 snaps and only got 8 carries. The end of the game.
Yep.
Why? I mean, and I like Kenyon Barner. I think he's a great kid. I think he has a decent future, as a backup running back in the league. You're giving a kid who hasn't played at all this season the carries at the end of the game to kill the clock.
And that's where it's hard to believe what Chip said.
But in the game.
Right, because Chip says, oh, well, we had Sproles and Barner in there because the Patriots linebackers are so big. And that's fine for the first 3.5 quarters. But you're right. In a situation like that, I mean, you paid a guy that much money.
Let's be honest. Has Murray fumbled this year? I don't think he's fumbled this year, has he?
Maybe once, but he's certainly not right. But regardless, even if he has fumbled once, I mean, that's your guy. That's your veteran guy right there. I mean, you're right. That says it all right there. I mean, in terms of what they think of Murray.
Yeah, one fumble this year.
And now the question is, going forward, do you think his role is going to change? I mean,
well, I don't know. how much do we believe? And I know Chip has to talk like a coach because he's not going to come out and say, "Hey, yeah, Murray stinks. We can't play him." I mean, even if he feels that way, he can't say that. I mean, it's this guy on his team. He's not going to throw him under the bus. But do you believe? Is there anything to be believed in Chip saying that, depending on the opponent, we're going to match up, the guys that we feel fit better against that opponent, or is it just all?
Well, I don't know what type of opponent. I mean, they've faced a lot of opponents this year, and they haven't found one yet where Murray. I mean, he's only got 100 yards in one game. So
team.
Yeah.
Who was that against?
I don't know. I don't remember who that was against. I think it might have been the Giants. But
there you go. He'll play last.
There
game.
You go. Yeah, week 17.
You got 4 games left. They have 4 back. So this week will be, Matthews. Next, they'll each get 1 game.
There you go.
I think it's funny, Mark.
But I don't think. To your point, I think over these past from the 10 days between the Lions and the Patriots game, I think it's clear Chip did some self-evaluation in a lot of ways. I mean, he cut Miles Austin. He put the younger receiver Krause into the game. He admitted at his press conference on Monday that he ran the ball in the third quarter to kill some clock, which is something he's never admitted before, whether he's done it or not.
And they kept the snap count down. I mean, the play clock, they were rolling it down to 2 and 1, which
that was good. They were in their tempo, but they weren't running tempo. You know what I'm saying? Like they gave a look of tempo, but they were using the clock, which was smart.
Right. And I think my final point is going to be, and then there's the whole Murray thing where, I mean, benching him is, I know he wasn't technically benched, but he was essentially benched. So, I mean, that's a big deal. So to me, I think it's clear Chip's made some changes after those 3 losses. And I think one of them is Murray's not going to play as much.
I mean, even though it was a back, he deactivated him and then he cut him.
Right. And I do think one of those changes is Murray is not going to play as much down the stretch. I just don't, I don't think it's going to happen. But
it might not.
Barner having that fumble might have changed the plans. I will say
that. But Matthews is back.
Yeah, Matthews coming back. If Matthews comes back, it does change a little bit. Mark, you had said a couple minutes ago, I thought it was really interesting that, Elliott said, is it just kind of the game plan, the fourth quarter, and you were going back and forth about how he didn't play on that last drive, and it was Barner. He gave the ball to the kid to roll the clock out. And then do we believe Chip in these post-game press conferences? I do in terms of the game plan, but then the game changes. And when you get to the fourth quarter, like you guys were saying, and you have a lead, it doesn't matter what the matchups are at that point because you're just trying to run the clock out. You're trying to finish
I just don't want
to
fumble. The only thing I don't want there is a fumble. And unfortunately, Barner fumbled.
And I think the phrase Chip used, and he used this often in the postgame, was something about the way the game expressed itself. And the way I took that was, and I know he wasn't trying to throw Murray under the bus, but the game expressed itself as Murray's not playing well, so I can't put him on the field.
Right, exactly. You read his mind.
That's the way the whole contract of Murray is expressing himself.
You got to admit, I mean, Chip can't say that. Chip can't.
No, obviously he can't say
because
that.
he might need Murray. What if Matthews? He doesn't. At that point, still doesn't know about Matthews, so he might be out more. We don't know. He doesn't. What if Sproles gets hurt next week?
No, I agree. I just think
Chip can't publicly, be negative about DeMarco Murray. He has to keep Murray, and he may need Murray.
I agree. But I think all things being equal, barring, an injury, which is certainly possible given, the history of, right. But I think this is the game plan. I think if everyone's healthy, this is the game plan. It's not going to be to give Murray the ball 20 plus times.
No, absolutely not. It hasn't been that way all year.
Right.
He's only had 3 games with 20 carries.
And what a perfect week it is now to kind of move forward, and we can look at this next game coming up. The Bills are coming in on Sunday, 6-6 team, right in the thick of the AFC wildcard race. They need this game. All this Murray stuff is swirling. We're talking about Chip admitting mistakes or maybe changing his philosophy based on mistakes he might have made. Well, that's going to be a theme this week because here comes LeSean McCoy, who's playing very well. He went out of that game last week with a concussion scare, but he looks to be fine, that he's going to be ready to go. And this is fascinating to me, Mark, on so many levels because you have Murray versus McCoy in one way, but then, of course, Kiko Alonso, who has not played well this year, out there literally against McCoy. What are your thoughts with LeSean coming back here? I mean, I think he's going to want it and probably will have a big game against the Eagles just based on everything.
Yeah, he's playing well right now too. Early in the year, he wasn't himself. He had the hamstring issue early. wasn't playing great for the Bills at all. But I believe he has 3 straight 100-yard games now, right?
I think so. I mean, it's definitely been 3 or 4 of the last 5. He's had really big games.
He's starting to roll. He's starting to look like the guy that we've seen, for years be one of the best backs in the league. And he's coming in with a lot. I mean, he's made his statements, but we all know what he said, and it was stupid to say it, but he did anyway. And so this is more than just. I've seen a lot of former players come back, whether it's been Reggie White with Green Bay or Donovan McNabb with the Redskins or Deshaun with the but Shady's coming back he's got a lot to prove to Chip Kelly and Eagle fans and I knowing Shady a little bit that I do, he's gonna. And his coach is going to feed right in because it's not like he has a coach who's a low key, keep it quiet. No, we're not going to make this kind of guy. Rex Ryan's as nutty as they come. So, he's going to say stuff. Rex is going to say stuff like, "Oh yeah, Shady's going to stick it." It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a fun week. And yeah, I mean, do the Eagles sell out to stop Shady?
I mean, I think they do.
Don't let Shady beat us, or do you play your straight game plan?
I think you don't let Shady beat you because I think even if Shady wasn't, even if he wasn't a former Eagle, I think going into this game, your plan is to hopefully make Tyrod Taylor beat you. I mean,
so you put an 8-8 in the box?
Yeah, I would.
Who's covering Sammy Watkins 1-on-1 down the field?
Eric Rowe is. Come on, man. Yeah,
of course. Silly me.
Eric Death Row. It's throwing there as I go now.
No, but I mean, it makes you wonder, was it a mistake to trade McCoy? And I do think if you look at it straight up, would you rather have McCoy than Murray? I think clearly that answer is yes. I haven't completely given up on Kiko like other people have. I mean, I think a lot of it more of it is rust than it is, just pure.
You've given up on Bradford. You've given up on Murray. But you think Alonzo's going to be good?
All right. Well, here's the difference.
The guy can't walk.
Bradford never
played when he fell down.
Bradford never played at the level Kiko did as a rookie, and Murray, I think they
were both rookies of the year. They were both one rookie of the year.
All right. Will you agree Kiko was better than Bradford was?
I don't know. I didn't see either one of them play up close that year. I mean, he won defensive rookie of the year because people saw he had a lot of tackles and he voted for him.
He had a lot of turnovers. But I mean, as you said, that rookie class where Bradford got it must have been a bad rookie class. But regardless. My point is he still hasn't played a lot in 2 years. And I know you're saying this. I know it's the same argument for Bradford, but I just think Kiko he's got a history of being an elite player where Bradford doesn't.
If Jordan Hicks is healthy, is Kiko even on the field?
No, I agree with you on that. That Kendricks has been better this year. Hicks has been better this year. Ryan.
I think Good is better this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. But my point is I'm not ready to completely give up on Kiko. That's all I'm saying. And I feel like a lot of people are.
Because we watch him play.
Yeah, I mean, all right. I'm just
done since he had that great play against Atlanta, and he's been nothing but a liability since.
So, all right. Well, here's where I was going. Would you do the McCoy for Murray? McCoy for Kiko trade again?
No, I would keep McCoy.
Did I have a lobotomy?
You get the cap space though.
Cap space. For my lobotomy, I would need a cap, I guess.
I
wouldn't trade McCoy for Alonzo.
No, but you got to take in. I mean, hey man, you couldn't sign Byron Maxwell.
No, the answer is no. I would not know.
All right, you feel strongly about that. I'm more on the fence about it. I mean, I just think the Murray signing was bad. So in that way, I would almost not do it just to prevent that from happening.
I was fine with either one. I would have been and I said this to you when it all came down. I would have been very happy going into this year with Ryan Matthews, Darren Sproles, Chris Polk, and Kenyon Barner. I thought that would have been a fine, or drafting one of the 20 good backs that were in this draft.
Yeah, no, I agree. But they didn't. So I mean,
no, they signed the leading rusher in the league. It was hard to criticize them for signing the guy that led the league in rushing, but it backfired on them. But I didn't mind trading McCoy, even though I liked them, and and he's a good, you can't argue about him on the field. You could talk about him off the field, and he does some stupid things. But again, if you want to trade him because of the cap hit and all that kind of stuff, okay. I would, and if I would have got a second round pick for him or something else. Kiko Alonso, look, at the time it didn't look bad, but he hurt the knee again. I think he's a shot. I think it's a shame. I think his career got ruined by knee injuries.
We'll see.
It might be. He's not. He wouldn't be the first, but he hasn't looked good. Murray, obviously, there's a lot going on right now with him, and here comes LeSean McCoy and the Bills on Sunday. So that's going to be the main story. It's obviously, and I wanted to say it's a must-win. It's probably more of a must-win for the Bills than it is for the Eagles, just because, like you said earlier, Mark, I mean, it's impossible to get out of this division race. 3 teams at 5-7, the Cowboys at 4-8. We'll wrap up. I guess
think are all 4 teams underdogs this week now too?
The Giants are in Miami, or they? I haven't seen the line on that. I mean, but
it was 1 point either way. I saw both. Same with the Eagles. The Eagles opened as a 2-point favorite, but now they're a 1-point dog.
And then you have the Redskins are at the Bears, I believe. They'll be an
underdog
there.
Dallas is in Green Bay. Green Bay's favorite. So they could all, if form were to hold, they could all lose this week, and then they'd be the same at 5 and 8.
You have 3, 5, and 8 teams and a 4 and 9 team with 3 weeks.
4 and 9 team still having hope.
That's the NFC East. That is the NFC East right now. As the Eagles are 5-7, tied for first place here. We have 4 weeks to go. Buffalo on Sunday, and we'll see. We'll see where this season goes and where the rest of these 4 weeks go. But certainly, the one thing that has happened here. We'll wrap with this. What's the one thing off of Sunday against New England now moving forward into the rest of the season that's changed in your mind, Elliot? Did you change your mind on Bradford? Did you change your mind on the team itself? What changed based on the win? Or are you just kind of the same place you were at before the game?
Honestly, I changed my mind a little bit on Bradford.
Wow.
Yeah, honestly, that's the thing that made me think they could win this division. I didn't think he would play that well. I didn't think they would win that game. But you know what? He hasn't turned the ball over in 3 weeks. He made big plays. If he plays that level of game these next 4 games, the Eagles will win the division. Now, I don't think he'll. I'm still not ready to say I'm 100% sure he'll do it, but I'm a lot more confident he'll do it than I was before that week. So to me, the biggest thing that changed was Bradford.
Mark, what changed for you the most? Off of the win under their belt in New England, 4 games to go. What changed after that?
I don't want to. I'll try to come up with something else, but it is Bradford though, because I wasn't quite as down on him as Elliott was, but I agreed with Elliott prior to that game that there was no. I said it in the press room last week that there's no way you bring Bradford back. He's never going to be the guy. He's not going to. And I'm still not 100% sure that I think he's the guy, like a guy that you can go real far with. But he showed me something. He did. He showed me. And it's amazing that we're saying this in a game where he completed 14 passes for 120 yards. Because if you just look at the numbers, that was the column I wrote the other day that, he's better than his numbers. Because if you look at numbers, you say, my God, he didn't do anything. But he did. I didn't think he would make those 4 big plays. And they were big plays. All right, we're all on 3rd down. And again, I don't know. He might go out against Buffalo this week and be really bad. And then I'll be back to where I thought I was. I guess the defense showed me a little bit too. The way they got to Brady, because the pass rush had been really anemic. And one of the reasons, and I don't want to, but Vinny Curry played about 40 snaps instead of 15. And he had like 5 quarterback hits. Should have had a sack. They gave it to Barwin. The pass rush was really good. They beat Tom Brady. They sacked him 4 times, but they hit him a bunch of times. He was under duress most of the game. There was only a couple times where he sat back there and was able to make all his reads and look like Tom Brady. They really beat him up.
They did. And they really played well with that pass rush and the way they played down the stretch of that game. Eagles win. They move on. Buffalo coming in next. McCoy comes back. It's going to be a really fun week, and we'll see where this season goes from here. Elliot, as always, thanks for doing this.
No problem. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Joe.
And thanks to all of you for listening to episode 19 of the No-Huddle Show, our Eagles podcast right here at NJ.com. Follow the show at Elliott Shore Parks, at Mark Eckel 08, at Joe Giglio Sports, most importantly, at the No-Huddle Show Follow the show. We'll tweet out all the links to the shows and everything else going on during the week in between each of the games. Thanks for listening.